Spencer, why are you special?
I don't know if I'd say I'm special, but I will say, I always try to be myself, and part of being myself is to not follow suit of others. I like to be different, and so maybe that's what I would say I am, is a little bit different. I think my music reflects it. I like to kind of live the way that I live, and I've been called many times like a 90-year-old in a 20-year-old's body. I think it's kind of how I am naturally. With my music, you kind of see that a lot of people say this sounds like it's something from 30 years ago, and so that's kind of the music that I grew up on, and I hope that, in a way, maybe that makes me special, something a little different.
I'm Herb Thompson, a Green Beret and resolutionist.
And I'm Corrie Thompson, Herb's less hairy half and branding expert.
Our guests come from various backgrounds, but one thing is true. They are special. We believe you're special. We saw you perform earlier this year and we're blown away at your storytelling and your talent. You are a country artist. I will say a rising star. I think everyone's going to know your name in a few years.
Thank you.
You're a storyteller, but old school way. And I mean that in a positive, so when she calls me cowboy, y'all may have heard that out there. My personal favorite, cold beer and common sense.
Yes,
we may talk about that. It is it's a pleasure to have you here. We're grateful for you coming over and recording this show. So thank you.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you all for having me.
We love it. But when did you start singing? How did you get? I mean, I think you started when you were young, if I'm correct.
Very young. Yeah. I mean, I always say I was like 4 years old. I grew up in a house that just had music. I grew up in church, where naturally in church, as soon as you're able to sing, you do sing. And so I just kind of dated it at like 4 years old. But, I was in church choirs and I was in school choirs, and on the weekends, I mean, I just remember there always being music in the house, and we'd go over to my grandparents' house and they would sing, we'd sing gospel songs. So as far back as I can remember, I was always singing and there was always music.
In Virginia, do they call it picking and grinning?
They absolutely do.
All right.
Yeah, picking and grinning. And you go to jam sessions, and that's where you do it.
Yeah, there you go.
In the Shenandoah Valley, right?
Yes, sir.
Right there at the Blue Ridge Mountains. So
yes, sir.
We have something in common. I don't know if you know this. I also was in the choir. I also don't have talent, and that's why I'm sitting here and he's sitting there.
But you did it.
I was in the all through elementary and into middle school in the choir.
Yeah, I definitely did not know that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You also play instruments.
Yes, sir.
I've seen you pick on a banjo like a maniac.
Yes, sir.
When did you start learning to play instruments?
That started at 8 years old. I picked up the mandolin for the first time, which is...
Yeah, go ahead. Wait.
So the mandolin is, for me, at that time, it was a bluegrass instrument. You can date the mandolin back to, I want to say Ireland. Like, you can see a mandolin maybe in like Irish pubs and stuff way back when. But just like any instrument, they all came and kind of merged once settlers came to the U.S. I was 8 years old and had small hands, so the mandolin's only like this big.
It's like a mini guitar, right?
Yes, it's very tiny. There's 8 strings, but you play 2. They're very, very close together. You play 2 as if it's 1. And so that's kind of how the mandolin is. And I was 8 years old, and I wanted to start playing an instrument, so I picked it out, and I learned very quickly I did not want to be a mandolin player, but I played it for like 4 years. When I was 12 years old, I picked up the banjo, and that was when music really took a hold of my life. It was the first time I had an instrument that I just like obsessed over. Like, it was all I wanted to do. I remember I would practice hours and hours a day, like 5 hours, and my fingers would hurt so bad. I'd have blisters on blisters. I would go to sleep and I'd wake up. First thing I would do would just be as excited as can be to go and pick up the banjo and try to keep learning. And so,
did your parents love that?
Yeah, they definitely did, because my dad played the banjo.
I was going to say, it's probably better than a drum set.
Yeah, it's definitely way better than a drum set, which my younger brother got a drum set when he was 6 years old. So
wow.
There was a banjo in this room and drums going over here. Very loud house.
Yeah,
and it was 3 boys.
Oh, wow.
So you could imagine. You know, my mom had her hands full for sure. But I played the banjo at 12 years old, and I've still today play the banjo.
You said you started to push into like, hey, it became your life. When did you know, like, hey, I want to do this for a living? Like, I'm going to be a musician.
I want to say probably at 15 years old. Maybe 3 years after I'd been playing the banjo and was really serious, and I just started playing shows. You could call it touring, but really a family band had just started. It was me on the banjo, my dad on guitar, and my younger brother on the bass fiddle. And it was just a three-piece. No, he picked up the bass when he was 12 and I was 15. We have enough for a band now, so we should start a family band. We called it the Hatcher Boys. And so we just started booking shows literally anywhere we could play. Like if a venue would have us stand in the corner and just start playing, like we would do it. And we were at a different church every Sunday. We were at fairs, festivals, lawn parties, everything we could do. And I think that was the moment where I had so much fun being on stage and performing that I was like, I think the dream formed. Now, just like any dream, everyone's like, well, it's too far-fetched. I've been told everything in the book that you can be told, really. But I remember one time in particular, which this tells you, like, this guy had a lot of gall to come up to a young kid and say this. I would do banjo competitions and band competitions and stuff. And he said, Spencer, I just think you should know that you should give up this dream of performing or wanting to play music. He said, if you pursue your dream, then it won't be your passion anymore and it'll just become work. And he said, you should really consider hanging it up.
That was roughly 10 years ago or more?
It had been 13, I guess. I was 15 years old, and I'm 28 now. So.
Can we tell him he's wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would never. Well, I mean, like with anything, like if anybody would come up and they say, this is what I want to be when I grow up, okay, do it.
Yeah.
Go at it with everything that you have. Life will put you where you need to be. God will guide you down that path. But for a middle-aged man to come up to a 15-year-old that's doing what he loves and tells him, don't. But it's just like anything. Everybody has an opinion, and everybody thinks that you need to hear theirs and that theirs is right. So,
and if you go back old school, Southern traditions, you were, if you dreamed too big, you were disrespecting where you came from.
Yeah.
So good for you for not listening to that.
There was that, and I think everybody's always had that, someone telling them they need to do something different, and then you're like, glad I didn't listen to that guy. But the reality of it is, for me, is once I really started pursuing it really, really hard, particularly when I moved into country music in 2020, and I started having some viral success, which in my area, I was pretty much the first one to ever start having like multi-million views on these videos. Like every other video I would put out would go viral. I think people were like, okay, Spencer is doing something here. And then everybody started just supporting me. Like everyone was like, dude, like you have this chance, like take it and run. And so, of course, my family was like the most supportive family. My mom, my dad never, ever, ever once said, you should do something else. You need a plan B. You need a fallback. They were like, if you're going to do it, go as hard as you can. And I told them that was what I wanted to do. And my whole entire hometown, which is Broadway, Virginia, they were all like, go for it. We believe in you. Which I feel like that's pretty rare to have a whole community of people that just like believes in you. And I don't even know that it was because I was like that great or anything. We have come a long way in 5 years, but people just encouraged me the whole time. And I think that's such a huge thing. A support system in anything that you do is important.
A large part of that is what we call the it factor, where when you are around someone who has that, there's no way to describe it. You just know it when you see it. And I think Herb and I immediately saw that in you. So I'm sure that everyone from your hometown has seen it too.
Well, it really means the world to hear people say it, because I don't, I have confidence in what I do, but I also don't think of myself like other people think of me. I'm pretty hard on myself. I'm really hard on myself. To me, of course, I've got a lot of doubt. If you let that really get a hold of you, there's always doubt in everything that you do. And
oh man, I love. So you've gotten millions of views across social media. You're signed with a huge record label in Nashville. Like you are a country artist. You're sitting here talking about having doubt. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You decide to make this. How do you go from the family band to where you're at now? I mean, that's a huge jump.
Yeah, a lot
and
happened.
Did your brother come along?
We played in the family band from probably 2012 until 2016. So for about 4 years, we were in the family band. But then in 2016, I went off to college. I went to East Tennessee State University in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Hey, we just passed by there.
Yeah, that was where I went to school. I went there because they have a really good business program. They're a good business school. But the thing that really attracted me to it was they're the only school in the entire world that offers a degree in bluegrass and country music.
What?
And so I'd heard about it, and people had been like, hey, you should check out this school. You should check out this school. And turns out it's the same school that Kenny Chesney went to. But this program in particular, like there were videos and things I could read about it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to major in it, but I'll minor in it and like have fun with half of what I'm going to be studying. And so that's what I did. I decided to go, and I got a public performance scholarship to be there and to perform with the school. And during my time at ETSU, I was in 4 bands, 3 bluegrass bands, and then 1 vocal band, which is like a quartet type thing. It was pretty sweet.
Like the barbershop quartet?
Yeah, kind
Minus
of, but
the
not
barbershop?
quite barbershop. Yeah.
Country.
Yeah. We didn't
country
have like
barbershop.
the red and white striped everything.
I was trying to picture that. I was like, I don't see it.
No, it was just like a vocal band. And one of the bands that I was in was a professional bluegrass band. And I landed a full-time spot playing the banjo with them. So I was studying bluegrass, history of country music, and business with a concentration in management. And I did that for 3.5 years, and then I graduated. And all the while, of course, I was touring with this bluegrass band, and we were going all over, and I learned a lot about the business then. But even then, in the evenings when I came home after class or on the weekends when I got home from wherever we were touring, I'd go to my dorm room and I'd pick up a guitar. And I was teaching myself how to play guitar. And I was just totally enamored with country music because at that point for like 5, 6, 7 years, I'd been just in bluegrass. And I just wanted to sing something different. You know, I grew up on country music as well, old time country music. I didn't start listening to modern country music until I was forced to go out and perform. And I knew that I needed to do something that like a college crowd would like. But when I would get home in the evenings, I would just start singing like George Jones, Hank Jr., Merle Haggard, all those guys.
Old school.
Yeah, and I just taught myself kind of how some of those guys would sing. I taught myself guitar, and but I will say too, like I'm really big on history. I love history, and I study history for fun. Like sometimes, like people will ask me what I do for fun, and honestly, I'll study for fun. Like that's one of the things I do for fun. If I'm not like shooting guns or playing music, then I'm studying. Like I love being a student and learning everything that I can. Yeah, I mean, I think that when you really dive into country music and bluegrass music and rhythm and roots music, blues, they're all connected. They're all part of it. You know, like rock and roll comes from blues, but then you've got the soul of country music, just like in blues. So it all kind of stemmed from one another.
Yeah.
Now, had you not went this musician route, what do you think you would have done?
I didn't even ask that because it sounds like he always knew he wanted to be
I
a
know.
musician.
I was like, I don't know. It's like,
Did you have a backup plan?
Well, kind of. It started falling apart. I will say that when I
love that your backup plan fell apart.
Yeah, that's right. When I was 15 years old, like I had my entire life planned out at 15, and it was always military route. You know, when I was like 8 years old to 15, I just loved military. I loved Army. I loved Marines. I wasn't even branch specific. I just loved military. I loved America. I was very patriotic. And I said, this is what I want to do. And as far as my mom and dad knew, even going into college, I was going to do the ROTC program so I could go into like the Navy or the Army or something as like an officer or a lieutenant. That was always the plan. But it really didn't change until in college. Even I was just like, I don't really know what my passion is. I don't really know what I want to do. I knew I loved music. If you're realistic about dreams, it's like, can it really happen? And being where I was from, it had never happened before. So I was just like, you know, I love to do it, but I'll go the military route for like the first year or two. And then things started happening with business. While I was studying business, I started really getting an understanding of that and what possibilities there were, as well as with music. I started kind of making some leaps in my music. And then when COVID hit and I went back home, I was only 22 years old. So even then I was still like, could still do military if I wanted, or I could do business or something. But then I had a viral video, and that was the moment where I knew what I was going to pursue as hard as I possibly could, because I was given this, to me, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to pursue music and to just try to make something of it. And if it was going to be dwindled out in a month from then that was fine. And I don't know. I probably would have just gone military like that. Like I said, that was what I always wanted to do. And then maybe, or maybe do a business thing, like start my own business. Or I was kind of looking for an immediate job right out of college. And like I said, I needed a change. I really wasn't happy with where I was at or much that was going on, but I did have a job offer to start as a financial advisor. Yeah.
I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, because I like finance too. I really like finance, and I study that for fun sometimes. So, but I had a full, straight up job out of college, full-time job position as a financial advisor that was offered to me, and I was like, it just doesn't seem like it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then once I saw this opportunity to go back home, figure out what I wanted, and sing songs in the meantime, that was what I did. And that was 5 years ago, and here I am now.
There's other ways of serving. Mm-hmm. And we've certainly seen that to be true for you. That's how we met you. You were at a veterans event, and the respect that you have and the work that you're doing now, you are still serving.
Yes, ma'am. Well, to me, I'll never get to serve like what Herb did or any of those guys.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
No,
you don't need a uniform to serve. I'll say that.
There's certainly ways that I can feel like I'm doing something to show my respect and the amount of honor that I have for all those guys just like you. I mean, I look at you and I see a hero. Everybody's got heroes. To me, I say it every single show that I play. The true superheroes in the world are the guys that are willing to sacrifice their time and life and families at times to serve the United States and their country because they love it. And to me, that's what a real hero is. So any opportunity I have where I could go and do the Robert Irvine event, I mean, it was like one of the greatest honors I've had so far in all my shows. And at this point in my life, I've performed like over 600 shows in my life. And that was one of the highest honors I've ever been given. And one of the major goals that I have that I'm very adamant on making happen is like a USO tour. Yeah. I would love to go to all the different bases and
there you go, USO, if
go
you're
overseas, do whatever I got to do, but to go play for the troops, like that is what I want to do.
Yeah.
No,
that's awesome.
That is just awesome. We were talking about earlier, kind of going along this line. You are now a signed recording artist.
Yes, sir.
You have been for, since summer of 2024.
Yes, sir.
How did you get signed? Because it was kind of, the story was humorous. It was a show.
Yes, sir.
In Nashville.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that show?
Yeah, it was, of course, after basically an offer had come through. They were like, we know everything about you. We've been watching you, but we have not gotten to see you perform live. And they said, we want you to come down to Nashville and perform live for us. And we're going to do it at the High Time down off Broadway for like supper, supper time. There's going to be a couple hundred people crammed in this bar. It's going to be easy. We just want to see how you react to a crowd, how you can work a crowd. And I was like, it's a piece of cake. I can do this. Like, this is going to be great. June 26th of 24, we go down. I guess we were there. We got set up. Everything was ready to go. And then like 45 minutes before we go on, this rogue storm comes in. There was like 25-mile-an-hour winds. There was hail and it downpoured. And this is like one of the hottest points of summer. I mean, it's like late June and there's hail. And there was only about 10 spectators inside at this time. And that was all the more that there was for the rest of the show. There was like 3 people at the bar, 3 people halfway through the venue, and it went way back. Like those bars in Nashville go they're pretty deep.
Yeah. You fit a few hundred people in there.
They're called a shotgun venue, I think.
That's right. And there was like 4 people way back in the back. And I was like, dude, there's nobody even here. And I've got like 15 of the biggest people, like the socials team, the executives, the owner, all the people, the attorneys.
Of the record label.
Yes, of the record label, sitting there like arms crossed, watching me, waiting to start my show. I was like, they're not even going to get to see me work a crowd. I'm just going to have to work these people like right here. And they're
in
at the
some
closest.
ways, that may have been better.
Well, Maybe, I mean, it might have totally been a different outcome, but it was by far the most nerve-wracking show I'd had at that point. Like, that was just absolutely terrifying to me. And it was a 90-minute show. You had to play 90 minutes straight through, no break. And
that's kind of long, right?
It's actually pretty standard.
Really?
It's pretty standard. And up to that point, like, coming from the Shenandoah Valley, in 2023 in particular, I did more 4-hour shows than I didn't. And we did over 150 shows that year.
4-hour shows?
And we did over 150 shows that year. And the majority were 4+ hours.
Like you play and then you take an hour break and come back out and play?
I would do an hour, 30 minutes, hour, 30 minutes, hour.
Wow.
So it was like 3 full hours of practicing with 2 30-minute breaks. But we would get there nuts. 3 hours before to set up, sound check, set up the lighting, get my team there, play for 4 hours, and then you're there for 2 hours after tearing down. So it was like a luxury to be home before 2 a.m.
Wow.
2, 3 a.m.
The glamorous life.
Yes. And it was, money wasn't great, and it's like a smoke-filled bar room for 4 hours, and you're getting paid a couple $100, and I got to split that with my guys and half my
with
team.
a migraine from all the
smells.
Yeah.
You wake up the next day, like if you're not an avid smoker, the next day you just feel like you kind of got a cold, like a head cold. So that's what it was for me, but that's just what we did, and that's how I knew life would be, and it's what I wanted to do.
But you obviously won them over.
Oh yeah,
because they signed you that day, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So then when you fast forward, we're back in Nashville. We did 90 minutes and they signed me on the spot as soon as I came off stage. And they said the last time that somebody had been signed on the spot by handshake in a bar was Jason Aldean in 2004.
Wow.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think.
Yeah.
That was probably the greatest night of my entire life, I would say, because it was like,
I was gonna say, I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you talk about it, man.
And now you see too, it's like after all those 4-hour shows, no pay, you get told everything in the book by the drunk guy in the back, you get shouted at.
Play Freebird.
Yes. Oh, Freebird. I would probably still hear that today. But yeah, at that point, so in 2020, we did 20 shows. The following year, we did 70, then 140. And then in 2023 and 2024, we did over 150 shows each year. So we did 500 shows before we got that shot in Nashville.
So I'm hearing you say you're an overnight success.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I didn't have to do any work prior.
Super easy.
Yeah, that's right.
Rolled in the bar, pulled out the guitar. And
That's there right. It was, just waiting on you.
Well, and to me, people are like, Spencer, you finally made it. And I'm like, dude, I am so far from making it. Like, if making it is signing, then yeah, I've made it. But if making it is what I want it to be.
So what is making it for you?
If I can go to some no-name town and sell out the venue with people that know and love my music because they say it's something that resonates with them and it's something that they support and it's true for them, then that's making it to me. It's not a monetary figure, which I feel like artists are always like, well, I just made 10 million this year, so I've made it. And it's like, I have never done this for money.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, just like anything, pretty much any business you get into, if you start a business for money, you're probably going to be bankrupt in like 3 years when you're supposed to start turning a profit,
Yeah.
Because it's just not what you can do it for. You have to do it for the passion. And so it's always been about crowd appreciation and just building the fan base. And I just hope and pray that people can love my music.
Hey, everyone, hit subscribe. We got more great guests coming up. More to this show, though. How do you stay grounded? Because that's something that sticks out to us, that you are like, what you see is what you get. You're a
very
true,
humble.
genuine, good dude, but humble. And how are you maintaining that as more and more fame is coming your way?
I don't think I've ever had any issue staying grounded because it's always been peculiar to me to see people become ungrounded. Like where I came from, everybody works. And maybe that's why, is because where I came from and my upbringing, my mom and my dad did not teach us boys to become, to be arrogant, to not hold the door for ladies, to not say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's never been an issue for me to realize that the only reason that I am where I am is because people believe in me enough and support me to put me where I'm at. it's got nothing to do with me. You know, people's like, yeah, but you're such a good performer and you sing good. It's like, well, I appreciate it, but if it weren't for you coming to my show and it weren't for you encouraging me and you listening to my music, I wouldn't be anything. There's a million amazing singers, far greater than me, that you'll never hear of. But it's because they just don't have that support. It's because people put their belief in me and, you know, they buy my tickets and they come out and that's why, you know, it's got nothing to do with me. So staying grounded for me, I just feel very humble to be able to be in the position that I'm at, to be able to go and play shows and to be signed. I recognize that it's all a gift from God. And if I start taking advantage of that, then, you know, I think you've seen it time and time again. It gets stripped from you pretty quick.
We were talking, he was at the CMAs this year, Country Music Awards. And what was that like for you, being at the Country Music Awards? And
Dude, I said earlier, I was like a little girl. Really. That was like the coolest thing. And I know that I was also probably like that annoying kid because I was literally two rows in front of all the celebrities. And so I was turning around in my seat the whole night, like staring at these guys. Like the line was like this. It was Luke Combs, Nicole, which is his wife. And then it was like Zach Top, his girlfriend, Kenny Chesney, Megan Maroney. Then you had the guys from Red Clay Strays. You had Old Dominion. Now I had Vince Gill behind me, Riley Green, Ella Langley, and Shabuzi was there. Like Lil Wayne showed up. I was like, what is he doing here? Like, I know who Lil Wayne is.
There, I feel like Snoop is everywhere right
now.
now.
No, I didn't see Snoop.
Shocking.
But
maybe next year.
There was a couple people that didn't show up, like Post Malone, Morgan Wallen, Hardy, Ernest. I was turned around in my seat like the whole night. And I was like, I hate to be this guy. And I try to do it like when they weren't looking. Like, I just wanted to see him because Kenny Chesney, like 25 feet from you is where he was sitting. Like there was the gap so that the celebrities could all get up and go perform. But quite literally, like not much further than the length of this room right here is how close I was to these guys.
Speaking of performing, who performed that night that made you scream?
There was an appearance that night that made me really scream. But like I got to see pretty much all of those people I just named perform.
Yeah.
Like they all performed. Chris Stapleton performed. Cody Johnson was there.
Yeah.
But the craziest moment, which was unannounced, and I don't think that they could have said anything anyway, so it was a total surprise to everybody, was when George Strait walked out on stage.
It's country royalty right there.
Yeah.
Like out of the blue, I hear people like roar because I was over here like looking at, I believe it was Brooks and Dunn or somebody was accepting an award or something.
Like,
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then over here, I hear this roar and I turn over and then there's one of the biggest idols to me.
Jesus' children himself.
Yeah, like it was absolutely insane. There's George Strait walking closer and closer to me. And I was so close to the stage that by the time that he had stopped, I was, yet again, it was like everything was within 25 feet of me.
Yeah.
So close to George Strait. And he sat there and he talked and I was just like, I literally remember like yelling and making a commotion. Like 8 people around me turned and just stared at me. I'm like, hey, let me have my moment here because when's the next time you're going to be that close to George Strait?
Yeah.
Unless like I became his buddy.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable. That whole night, that's kind of thing that I say, you know, maybe some people will get a really big head, but I realize how massive of an honor that is and how few people will ever get to experience what I did that night. That to me, it's so humbling and something I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
I have a feeling you're going to be able to see George Strait again.
I have a feeling you may even become his buddy.
I hope so. Invite me to your house, George, please. I would love that.
Is there ever a time you were scared to perform? Like you got nerves, maybe that nerves, not scared, but nerves.
Yeah. I almost always have nerves. Like not like some people. I'm pretty confident in my show. I try to stay confident because what I learned early on was I used to be very, very nervous to go out on stage. Starting off, like I would get so nervous my stomach would hurt. And I was like, I've got to change something here if I'm going to be a performer. And so once you just perform the amount of shows that I performed, you will always still have nerves. And for me, it's because I care so much and I want to do really good. But it's never like I'm so nervous that I'm actually thinking about like backing out. But still today, like especially I'd say this past year, I've had so many new experiences and new types of shows like the Robert Irvine event, terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified. I was in the back room strumming my guitar. I was going out solo. Like, it's always easier if I have one of my guys with me.
Oh yeah, it was you,
Just you and your
guitar and a
guitar.
microphone.
Just me, my guitar, microphone, and then like some of the most powerful military figures in all of the United States sitting there like staring at me. And I was just like, I mean,
But
that kind of thing is very nerve-wracking for me.
what you did in that moment, we took note of, you took a moment. And we respected that so much because you were finding your peace before you stepped into it.
Yeah.
So is that something you regularly do?
I
Or was
try
it just
to.
that moment?
Yeah, I try to like get in the mindset.
Yeah.
And I would say too that I'm a lot more nervous backstage than when I walk out. As soon as I walk out,
It's on.
well, there really is, like, for me, I would say I 100% do have a switch.
Yeah.
Because once I step on the stage, I know that there's no turning back. I would never, ever quit a show or walk off or anything like that. So it has to be 100% go mode, and you have to find some sort of confidence, because if you're not confident, you're going to second guess yourself. And like I've made every single mistake that you can make as a performer, you know, like messing up the words, forgetting the words, not, you know, stumbling over what you're trying to say. And I've done it all.
And you lived.
Yeah.
That's with
I made
public
it.
speaking, something that I share with people all the time. I have some great, horrible public speaking stories, including having a Marilyn Monroe moment with full dress
no.
up. Yeah. So, and you learn, you live.
Yes, ma'am.
And that makes you so much more confident
Yes, ma'am.
in the future when you go, you know what? What's the worst that could happen?
Right. You absolutely are nervous. And me in particular, I do get nervous, but you got to be confident. And I think that there's the reason that I can have confidence is because I've messed up so many times that I do know how to cover up. I would say fairly good. Like, rarely anymore is there a disastrous moment, but I've had those disastrous moments before where I totally lose every single word to the song, even though I've sang it 100 times. There's not a chance I will be able to even come back in and sing any more part of the song, and I'm in verse 1.
Yeah.
I'm not even in the first chorus. And I have done everything. I've started a song before and had to call it and restart it, to the point where now it's like, if I forget the words, literally, like, I'll laugh.
Yeah.
I'll laugh on stage. And I look around and like, it's just cool. It's fun.
It may be Kenny Chesney, but I know it's a famous country singer that's when he turns the microphone to the crowd.
Yeah,
Have you
well,
heard
that would
that?
be a good thing to do too. Like, let them sing, because they know the words. They're not
Yeah.
nervous. But it's always hard too. Like, I've had it where I'm singing and I'm about to forget the words, and I see this guy or girl in the front row that's singing, but, you know, like, they clearly don't really know the words,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it really screws you
Yeah,
up.
It'd be
yeah.
like
And
me
then you-
singing along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're moving their mouth, and
Yeah.
you're like, clearly they're a fan, like, they love it, but they don't really know this song.
Yeah. So
Like,
if they start saying something, don't repeat it because you're not going to.
no, yeah.
Is there anything that surprised you now being in the music industry for a few years?
Something that never doesn't surprise me, and I'll try to keep it more general, would be the need people feel to tell you what they think at all times. You know, no matter what you do, what you're doing, and this is probably in life, like, you have those people that clearly don't understand bounds and things that would never occur to you to ever say to somebody, people will say to you, and they'll criticize you, or they'll say certain things, and that can be in a business setting, it could be in performing, it could be anything. And I think, you know, it's really, really important to not let what people say discourage you from pursuing what you want to do, or going down the path that you know is best for you. You know, just because one guy thinks that going this way is right doesn't mean it is for you. You
Right.
need to stay on your path. And so,
Like you always say, own your journey.
I always say on your journey.
yeah, on
'cause,
your
like,
journey, 100%.
Yeah.
everyone's going to have a different one. And you can't be, like we talked about earlier, you're not going to be George Strait.
Mm-mm.
You're going to be Spencer Hatcher.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Like, that's it. There may be hopefully, oh yeah, my music, I can see the resemblance to some of the old time stars, but it's, you got to own your journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just be a boss about it. You know, I really do think that, like, you got to be your own boss, and you got to just take it and run with it, and don't second guess yourself. I mean, you're going to make mistakes, but, like, failing is part of it. I said early on, this has always been my philosophy. The only way that I'll truly fail is if I quit. And I am not a quitter. I will not quit. So you never fail if you don't quit. You might fall way down. You might fall back, which I've done that plenty. But it's about just keep going. Because when was the last time you heard of one guy trying to do everything he possibly can and learn and is like making it his passion that has taken him 40 years to succeed? Like, typically it doesn't happen. Yeah. It's just most people want to quit after 2 years or 1 year, and it doesn't happen. And it's like the picture that you see of like the guy digging the hole, and the diamond is just one more shovel, but he's tired, and so he quits.
Stops. You've spent the last year doing a lot of radio tours, right? Especially recently.
Oh yeah.
I guess I didn't realize radio still existed. Which it's a big part of your career, right?
It's huge. You know, radio is still giant in country music, which makes sense that it is country music because there's still, you know, for me growing up, we always had the radio on. Now, you also are talking like early 2000s where you didn't have Bluetooth yet. There was no YouTube.
I mean, we just spent some time in Tennessee and our cell phones barely worked.
Yes.
So.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah, so sometimes radio is all you can get.
Yeah, and the radio is still awesome. It's still really great in country music. You go to the country stations if you're in Tennessee. I don't know how great they are everywhere. Like, you know, I will say that I went to Detroit, and that's quite the city. Not one that you would particularly think would be strong in country music, but the guy that I went up there and saw and the country station, amazing. And the guy even told me there, he said, Spencer, I love everything that you're doing. He's like, I love your music. I listen to your music. I'm going to play your music. Because he said, here's the reality of it. And this guy was like, I want to say he said he was 62. He said, when I got into country music, this is the style of stuff that I was playing on the radio. It was new then. And he said, here we are 30, 35 years later. And he said, now someone like you comes along. And it's like, I'm finally getting to start playing real country music again.
Yeah.
You know, we lost it for 20, 25, 30 years. And now it seems to be coming back. And so even in like a city market, those guys, a lot of the radio people are, you know, I'm not saying they're like old, but they're not like, most of them aren't 20 years old.
Yeah. But you appeal to the 20-year-olds too, because our son, who isn't far from 20, was who introduced us to your music. Yeah. And he knew instantly that we would love it because it was more like the country music that he knew that we listened to, you know, and it connected for him as well, actually, with the Cold Beer and Common Sense song.
Yeah, perfect. So Cold Beer and Common Sense.
Yes.
Which I think we can always use more of both. But how did that come about? How did Cold Beer and Common... And if for the audience that hasn't heard this, we'll put a link down in the description there, but like you need to hear this song because especially now as we're going into 2026, we're in 2026 when this airs, like we need it.
I think it's going to be one of those timeless songs. It doesn't matter how much time has passed since its release. It will always apply. It's a song that has a message and a lesson, you know, and it's one that I think a lot of people should really listen to. And that was kind of the entire point of recording this song. I wish that I was a writer on it, but it was a song right when I'd gotten to Nashville where I was starting to write with these guys. But these are hit songwriters that had this song, had it for a little while, I believe, and just nobody had recorded it. And when my label reached out to these guys, they're like, hey, we got this new guy in here that's got a pretty old sound, and we're looking for something that somebody back in the late 80s or 90s would have recorded. They sent Cold Beer and Common Sense, and they're like, just check this out, see what you think. If you just had the lyrics on a piece of paper and would read it, you would learn something, let alone have the music behind it to kind of add emotion to it. And so we just saw that as an opportunity. It was right around election time too. We released it in October of 2024. So it was like, a month before. We had this whole campaign where it looked like a voting sheet. And I actually went out in the medians and we put out where everyone else was like Cold Beer Common Sense 2024.
Love it.
And it was all over. And we had like images made where it was up at the White House and all over the place. It was really, really cool. But it became like this whole thing, and it really gained a lot of traction. Then people started actually listening and figuring it out, and was like, this is amazing, and we totally need this kind of song. In 1 week, it did over like 750,000 streams.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I came into this game too with like no streaming. And that was one of my first releases. I released 3 songs in one day, and that was my professional debut as Here's Spencer Hatcher, the country artist. Cold Beer and Common Sense was the title track. And so everybody listened to it, and yeah, it soared.
You didn't write that song, but you do write songs. How do you balance that as an artist and now as a musician under a contract of writing your own music or someone else's music?
Well, it comes down to what's a good song. Now, not all artists are willing to record a song that their name's not attached to. There's a lot of artists today that won't record a song unless they're a writer on it. And that's for monetary purposes. I'm out for the best song. I want a song that resonates with me, and I know will resonate with my entire audience. And if it's not a song that I wrote, so what? I don't care. I want the best song. And to me, Cold Beer and Common Sense was that. I wish I'd have been a writer on it, but being that I wasn't and it was already written, it's like, it's fine with me. Let's cut it. I've got a lot of albums and a lot of life left to keep recording music. I'll record my own songs that Spencer Hatcher wrote.
Sure. Yeah.
But for right now, like if there's a pitch from a bunch of guys, and a lot of them are my buddies now, I've been writing so much over the last year, there will definitely be music that Spencer Hatcher has written and you all get to listen to. But it's like, if my buddies are writing an amazing song and they are thinking about Spencer Hatcher, to me, that's yet another honor. Yeah. Hit songwriters that have written hits for George Strait, Kenny Chesney, like every big name in the book, and they're like, this one we want for Spencer Hatcher. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get in the studio and cut it. Like, that's what it's about for me. If I didn't feel like it resonated with me and it was true to me, then I wouldn't record it. So even if I wasn't a writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if I'm not a writer, it's something I still believe in.
Yeah.
As 2026 kicks off, what's in store for the new year ahead? How are you going to take that next level?
You can expect a little bit of everything from me in 2026. Like there's so much work to do. I've got more music coming. I've got my very first album coming. My debut album will finally be released. Radio tour is a big thing I did last year, and it's what I'm going to continue focusing this year. So I'm going to be out on the road. You're going to get to hear Spencer Hatcher on the radio finally, which has been always a dream of mine and a huge goal. And by doing more radio tour and just spending a tremendous amount of time out on the road, just meeting people and doing it, I really hope to get more time in radio play. Focus streaming, focus social media, more writing. I just hope that in every little aspect you can see something from Spencer Hatcher. But there's a lot of building left to do, and I've got a lot of growth, and I think 2026 is going to be a big year for me.
Oh, we agree. We believe it's going to be a big year. I looked up, I saw there's a couple of shows, like one in the Shenandoah Valley.
Sure.
And then one in like Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, Portland, like that's.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other big thing is live shows. I want to do as many live shows as I possibly can. And we've got a bunch more booked than what's on my website because of contract purposes.
Yeah.
So we will be doing a bunch more shows, and I invite everybody, please come out. I love more than anything having y'all come out to the show and just have a good time with me. That's like the stages where I'm absolutely the happiest, and to have people join me in that and have a good time too, and just cut up and cut loose, enjoy country music. That's awesome.
How good is it? SpencerHatcher.com?
SpencerHatcherMusic.com.
Music.com.
Yep.
How about on socials?
I'm pretty sure like you just look up Spencer Hatcher and it's top result. Instagram is Spencer Hatcher official, but everything else, you just look up Spencer Hatcher, it'll pop right up.
So I do want to ask you about this. I know you had tragedy in your life.
Sure.
I don't know another word to describe it. You lost your mom back a few months ago. What has that meant to you, Holly?
She was a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Teacher.
And obviously, as you said, a big part of who you are, making you the man you are. How have you handled that? I mean, because you've
as anyone could imagine, like it's been absolutely horrible. It's like one of the worst things anybody could ever imagine happening. And you would probably never think it could happen to you, especially the way that it happened to me and my family. But I will say, you got to find a way to keep going.
Yeah.
And I've always been really religious, and I keep God really close to me, and especially more so now, which I think a lot of people would be like, well, that's pretty surprising considering what happened, that you're still religious. It's like, well, to those that look into the story, you realize I was this close to losing my father as well.
Yeah.
But by pure miracle, I didn't. And so for that, I think that was where God came in. God played a role. Evil can disrupt God's plan. There is no doubt about that, and that's a stated thing. But, good always wins, and you will be faced with a lot of hard things. And I really do think that I've been through more in my 28 years than I know for a fact a lot of people ever go through. I've been through a lot. I think a lot of what keeps me sane is having faith and keeping your head screwed on straight. You could go crazy. You could start drinking. You could get into drugs and try to justify it by tragedy or whatever. But that's a dead end road. So what I do is I look at the family that I got and support systems, and I've got fans, people that care about me so much, people that want to be there for me and check in on me. Like the amount of people that check in just because, like, of course, this Christmas was really
Tough, right?
really tough. And I can tell now that Christmas will never be the same, of course. No holiday will ever be the same again, because my mom was such a huge role in every single holiday. But it's important to still be positive and not just be depressed, and to realize that I got 28 great years with my mom, and I'm thankful for that. And I made 28 years of memories. And so moving forward, when I have my own family, I can try to instill in them what my mom instilled in me, and know how great she was, and hope to be, people say this, but truthfully, I hope that I could be like half of the parent that she was, because she was the greatest. She was literally the greatest mom. Like, her boys came first. For my 28 years, it was the truth. I have an older brother that's 31. For his 31 years, it was the truth. And then my younger brother is 25. For all three of us, my mom was like, that is how it was. Her boys before everything. She was a mother first. That's what it was. And then she was a very honored teacher at John C. Myers Elementary School for 19 years. And, when all this happened, like, it was just unbelievable. It's been unbelievable, the amount of support that we've gotten, the amount of people that it affected. It's been horrible too. Of course it's horrible, but there's been a lot of, I don't even know if you would say beauty in it, but it's like unexpected, graceful things too. Like the love and support that we've received, the things that a community will do when an entire community hurts, they're still good. That's what this showed me, is that through all of this bad and horrible tragedy, there are still good people. And God is still present in so many people's lives. I just push forward every single day, and I think about my ma every day. I pray for her. I talk to her. I go visit her when I'm home. I pray that nobody ever has to go through something like that.
It just shows the kind of character you have. But you all, your family started the Holly Hatcher Education Foundation, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to donate $1,000 to the foundation that's going to help the community out there in the Shenandoah Valley, because we just want to be a part of it. So, so we'll give you the foundation $1,000, and we know it'll go to good in her memory and honor in the work she did in the community.
Thank you so much. My gosh,
Absolutely.
You all are phenomenal people, and that's what I'm talking about right there, is people that are willing to to help, and the foundation too. It's not like I'm plugging it here for the viewers or anything,
No,
but
this was us. We did our homework.
you didn't know.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
truth is, like, to help teachers and to help students was the only thing my mom ever griped about. She didn't complain or anything.
Yeah.
But public school teachers are just underpaid, and there's a lot of kids that can't afford a good year. And for you all to do that, not only, to me, I see every donation as something that's kind of like an act from my mom, something like they're still good, but also the gracefulness of you all that's willing to help a community out and help teachers and help students. So I appreciate you all so much.
When we talk about serving, going back to earlier, there's many ways to serve, but really communities coming together can help each other. And we don't necessarily need a handout from the government. We can all help each other and do a lot better. And I think this is part of it. Two big influences in my life. One was two teachers. One was in-school suspension monitor. We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
He had a big impact on my life. And then Corrie, he's no longer with us, but Rob, one of my science teachers in school, he believed in me. And I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for people like him believing in me. And
teachers are a huge thing in a lot of kids' lives. Like the kids that don't have parents, that don't have, especially like a good father figure. Yeah. And then they've got someone that is teaching them how you act and what respect is and discipline. Teachers are a lot of kids' heroes, And so I think it's important. I think that you all are really great for recognizing that.
We're grateful for you coming here. Seriously, man. This means the world to us. Thank you for making the trip from Shenandoah as you're coming back. You're back home from Nashville. What do you value most in life?
Family. And I'd say it's always been family. You can say immediate family, but my family is more than just, I've got more than just blood relation. I have people that are part of my life that 100%, I'm sure you all do too. They are not blood at all. It's not by marriage, but they are so great, and they're loyal, and they're respectful, and they're trustworthy, and they're like as close as you can possibly get. A lot of times they're closer than what real family even is. That family, to me, the people that I have in my life, in my circle, that I love and care for, that's it. Family, absolutely.
I love that. For me, there's people in my family. I'm closer with a lot of the guys I serve with.
Yes, sir.
Like, I'm closer with them than family, like big time. But this is awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
all.
much, buddy.
This is a real honor. Thank you for having me.
Subscribe, like, and comment, and don't forget to set those notifications. We'll see you next week with another special guest.
Until then, own your journey.